Welcome back to the Annuity Happy Hour, where we laugh, talk annuities, hear crazy agent appointment stories, and so much in between. This is your end of week. That's the problem, is if I start reading.
Hey, welcome to the Annuity Happy Hour. Caleb has to constantly remind himself who he is. He does it by reading. Hey, you could have brought out your positive affirmations too.
Yes, I could have. I try to avoid positive affirmations for myself because I tend to operate best under negative. What would the opposite of affirmations be?
Self-deprecation.
Yeah.
That's
kind
terrible,
of kind
man.
of the sweet spot for
That's
me, though.
terrible. Hey, but for real, welcome to the Annuity Happy Hour.
Cheers to another great week.
Cheers to another great week. I'm Josh. This is Caleb. Hey, and you'll see that we're changed. We are no longer the Annuity Fund guys
We're
as far as
changed
all of
men.
the official social capacity goes. But we actually, through some deep research online, found out that there were some people that were called the Annuity guys, and just out of honor for the trademarks and stuff that they already have in place, we were like, well, let's just not even cross that bridge. You know, as this thing is starting to explode, and we're starting to get some traction with this thing, like, let's actually let this thing be its own thing.
It is.
And what do? We spend an hour every single week talking about our week. You know, we go through, it's our mental decompression. It's our time to just, you know, I'm having an old fashioned today. Caleb's having just a bourbon.
Whiskey rocks, yeah.
Whiskey and rocks. And this is just like a happy hour for us. It's like you're getting together with your friends, you know, your girlfriends, your guy friends, and you're sitting down having a drink. You know, could be water. Nothing wrong with just having a drink of water or some sweet tea, whatever that thing is for you, right? And just talking about your week, talking about how it was, talking about the wins, the losses, everything in between. Caleb couldn't necessarily do that on the fly, so I intercepted it and took it over for him because he was reading our description from our YouTube channel. But here we are, and we're just here talking about annuities, having fun doing it, and really just letting this be a place for you to come as an agent and learn, and just honestly let loose a little bit, let some of that pressure off, because we all feel it. We all feel the pressure of growing and scaling and servicing our clients and all the different stuff. So that's what this is. So as we're moving forward, mark your calendars. We're going to try to have it launched every week by noon or so on Fridays. So make sure that you're subscribing and coming on this journey with us, because we want to get to know you, and we can't get to know you if you're not connecting with us. So the more that you can connect with us, then you can actually listen to this, having a level of relationship with us, which is our goal with this. Just having as much relationship with agents as we can. Right.
Well, and we specifically chose Fridays because it's a wind down from the week, not a ramp up into the week as a Monday would be. Fridays, you end up with a lot of agents out on the golf course, maybe driving home from the office, commute, whatever, traveling, going out for the weekend, whatever the case might be. There should be ample amount of time to listen to about an hour-long episode each week. So that was the intent of it. But yeah.
And we go deep, right? We laugh.
Yeah.
Caleb almost made me cry last week.
Yeah, if you didn't listen to last week's, you ought to. You should go back and listen to it.
And find out why he almost made me cry. But honestly, that's what we want to be. We want to just be real people. And so often, in this industry, there's veils between the people that are running a lot of the organizations in the industry and the people that are actually transacting the business. Right. And so, for Caleb and I, we're actively running an organization in this industry that is servicing a lot of different agents in a lot of different ways. And so, for us to be able to tear back that veil a little bit and just let you see who we are, let you see that the people that are doing this at really high levels, they're normal people. They love their families. We love our families. We love what we do. We have hobbies. We're not just stuck to and chained to our desks all the time. We're normal dudes that just enjoy what we do and using this industry as a vehicle to actually have positive impact in the world.
You're more normal than I am, I think.
Nah, I would agree.
I'm an odd bird, dude. You ever think about it?
Can I plead the fifth?
Dude,
I'll say this, Caleb. You are one of my best friends, and
Likewise.
We've developed friendship through our working together. And gosh, I'm going to choke myself up today. You have two little girls, and suddenly you just become a puddle all the time.
You know what it is?
What is it?
It's testosterone. It's biological. After a man has kids, his testosterone never returns to the levels that it was before.
It's just so high that I'm so confident that now I'm just comfortable and I don't have to pretend that it's higher.
I
That's
agree.
what I'm saying.
I'm just saying every dude, it doesn't matter, like every single dude. He could already have low T, he could have high T, it doesn't matter. It's like they have kids and biologically their testosterone goes down.
For the record, for anybody listening, I don't have low T. Caleb is not.
Nobody ever thought you
You are
did.
an odd bird, man. I was about to get all sentimental for you and everything. I'm not now.
He said, well, after you have
I don't even remember what I was going to say.
two
at this
daughters, you get all soft and sweet and you cry
but-
easy and stuff. I'm just saying, hey, it's you're a kind man with a good heart. And I'll say this too, like there's a difference, and I've always said this, there's a difference between like a nice guy and like a sweet man. You know, like you have just a nice guy. Like he help you out, do whatever. But then you meet the guy that he's genuinely sweet, like not literally sweet, but his personality, it just kind of, he's a peacemaker, he's supportive, he's helpful, he's humble, like all those types of qualities that come together. I would say you're a sweet man, not just a nice guy.
I'm a peacemaker that's going to tell you when you need to get your stuff together. You need those people, though. You need those people.
And I need to be told often. So.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about that a little bit today. I mean, obviously, we got a lot of stuff to talk about from this week, but I think there's this concept, and I've seen this be a recurring theme. I'm realizing it's just because who I am, but like your alignments and like how you actually connect with individuals and how you strategically align with people is super huge on if you're going to succeed or not.
Yeah.
And so that's one thing I can say about you is we've developed a lot of friendship through working together. And a lot of it is usually you getting super ticked off at me for something that I'm, pressing us into too soon or, not even too soon, but that just rocks the boat, right?
Sure.
And so we've had like so much conflict resolution so fast in our friendship. And there's just like such a deep love that we have for one another because of the fact that we've been through a lot together.
Yeah.
Just in life, transitions in life, like, and even just transitions in job, like all that kind of stuff and the stuff that we're building, transitions in team, right? As we've seen people come in and go. But man, when you've got that like anchor, it's really awesome that you just know that they've always got your back.
Sure. And
regardless of what happens, they're going to be there for you and vice versa.
Yeah. Yeah. The journey from, you go back 5 years ago to now it's kind of crazy to think about when we were working in Chad's home office by the hour, basically, to try and get Retirement Realized off the ground and then scale it and grow it and continue to build it. Like from that point, just 5 years ago to now is almost incomprehensible.
Yeah. Honestly, the only thing that you can attribute that to is the favor of the Lord. It's the stewardship thing that we talked about last week. Just, I feel like we've done our best as much as we can to selflessly steward what we've been given.
Yeah.
And there's a reason that like we went from a 400 square foot home office with like, 7 or 9 people in there at one point. Like everybody's on top of each other pretty much.
Yeah. Chad and I making calls at the same time.
Yeah. To a
6 feet away.
To a ballooning staff,
Mm-hmm.
to then a staff reduction as we've like started to actually, redefine what we need to be going after. And not because of layoffs, right? It's just like, hey, here's where we're going. If you want to come with us, come with us.
Yeah.
And I remember Q4 of last year this is 2024 right now, but actually this was probably 2022. Yeah, Q4 of 2022. And I was doing performance reviews with everybody on our team. Mm-hmm. And I had a big meeting with our whole staff and I said, hey, here's where we're going. You're either going to be with us or you're not.
Right.
I love all of you. I value all of you. Like we've got friendship with all of you. And if this is not the right thing for you, that's perfectly okay.
Yeah.
We release you to go. We'll help you in what you're trying to do. But man, that was hard. It's hard to like let go of that stuff. And we talked even some last week about like the delegation and all that stuff. And especially as you start to like carve those channels out and then to trench down in something specific and be like, hey, you got to be with us or you're not.
Right.
And then for people to like have that, realization in the relationship to be like, hey, I actually don't think I am.
Yeah.
It was awesome. Like it was a great experience for us because we were able to to take our staff down. And all of a sudden, our staff goes down, our production goes up, our training subscriptions go up, we're launching new products, new services, all these kind of things. And
Margins skyrocket.
Margins skyrocket. And suddenly we refine our scope, right, of what we're trying to do. And suddenly we're working deals with multiple agencies that got, 5 to 10,000 agents that we're servicing.
Yep. It's crazy.
With still fewer people than we had before.
Yeah.
But it's like as you step into efficiencies and as you step into the more that is available, right, with that focus, I mean, the opportunities are endless with what you can actually step into.
Yeah, it's true. And I think that's just good leadership to be able to identify, hey, this is the direction we're going. There won't be hard feelings if that's a direction that you don't feel you should be going. This is where we're taking Retirement Realized, and if that's not something that you want to be a part of, that's okay. But this is probably, like, you think about that. You need to know this is and if you're not bought into that direction, you're not bought into that's where we're headed,
right,
then it's going to feel like you're getting drug.
Right.
Which isn't fair. But I'll say, too, we had a lot of people that ended up going to start their own things.
Yeah.
Businesses,
right,
launched out of that
right,
out of that season. So pretty cool transition all the way around. I remember when I first started taking a pay cut to work with Retirement Realized, because we were just getting it off the ground. I mean, it was the infancy stages, going from the ranch to Retirement Realized. And then 2 weeks after I started, the Lord told me, hey, this is your tent making. Because at the time, I knew I was called to ministry in some capacity, but didn't know what that looked like. The Lord revealed that it was similar to Paul's ministry and that it was more apostolic in nature. He wrote a lot. He wrote to and ministered to various churches in different nations, as opposed to just, being a pastor or something on staff somewhere, which not knocking that at all. It's just some people are called to that and some people are not. The calling that the Lord had for me was more in alignment with Paul's ministry, and Paul was a tent maker. And 2 weeks after I started Retirement Realized, the Lord said, this is your tent making. And so ever since, I've been, full bought in, man.
Yeah. I can attest to that.
It's a fun journey. It's been a fun journey, and it just keeps getting more and more fun.
Yep.
And the stakes get higher, and the things we do keep getting bigger.
Right.
But at the same time, it's almost like the parable of the talents. I mean, we talk about stewardship. It's like, you've been faithful with little, and give you much. And stewardship, I think that is one of the most overlooked concepts in the business world.
Yeah.
Stewardship. Because everything's stewardship.
Right.
There's not a facet of life that isn't stewardship in a degree. Your relationships are stewardship. Your time is stewardship. Your finances is stewardship. Your job, your company, your employees, your boss, your, like, all of it. The way that you handle all of that is stewardship.
Your time. You might have said that already, but your time is a big one.
It's a huge
And that's a big one for me, because being so future oriented, managing my time is a huge thing. So like even this week, funny thing, and we're talking a lot, I can feel like the direction for this day is a lot about, like, even having that vision, right? Like, what is the vision that you have for what you're doing? But even this week, my wife has been, like, helping me get email stuff to be more under control. And you laugh because, like, your email is net zero every day,
Spick and span.
and suddenly, like, everything is filed. I'm so much, like, building for what we're doing in the future, that I'm trying to figure out how can I be less in email and, like, siphoning through things that I don't need to, that are taking up brain capacity, that actually slow me down on doing things that actually propel our business forward. And so my wife, fortunately, who's Chad's executive assistant, but she's been graciously helping me, like, get my email to be incredibly organized. And it's been awesome. You're judging me right now.
No, it makes me think back to a conversation we had on the podcast a few weeks ago about being one skill away from doubling income. Because I tend to be more future oriented in my mindset. Like, I'm always dreaming into what is down the road, 5 to 10 years, right? That's, like, constantly. But I think that, this is, Josh, you're fantastic, so don't hear this the wrong way. I'm just saying, I think that if you can take an organized inbox and keep an inbox organized, it's going to propel everything that you do forward.
Totally.
Because that area is clean, and it's not something, like, for me, and maybe this is just a difference in me, but if I have a cluttered area, it makes it captivates brain space because I'm thinking about it in disarray.
Sure.
So like I have to, for me,
You're waiting for my response right now,
I
aren't you?
have to keep my inbox clean. Otherwise, I'm thinking about all the things I have to do to get my inbox clean. I have to keep, and granted, my home office is still very much a work in progress, but it captivates brain space because it's not structured the way that it should be.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. So maybe that's just a difference between you
But-
and I. I feel like we're pretty similar in a lot of ways, but
For me, it's efficiencies, right? So like for me, weeding through tons of emails that most of them are not relevant or necessary for me to be involved with, period.
yeah.
Like having a system, and when we were at 8% Nation, that conference a while back, someone was talking about managing their email and how they didn't manage their email anymore. They had somebody that was managing their email. They got them everything that was pertinent and relevant for them. That's what I feel like I need long term. Not that I'm above managing my email. I totally am. I can manage my email. I could spend the time to do that, but there's only so much capacity.
Is it worth it? Is the question.
Right. And so I think it's one of those things that I'm trying to figure that out for myself, right? Like how much time do I need to devote to this thing? When I could find an email, case in point, I found a very specific contract, like just to prove to my wife, like I know how to get to stuff in this thing. Like it doesn't bother me that it's not all in folders because I know who sent me a thing, and I just go look that person up. Within 12 seconds, like I kid you not, I had her count out loud. Within 12 seconds, I found like a very important contract from probably about 4 years ago. And I just knew like, okay, I need to type this in. It's going to be right there. So like my brain keeps record of like where those things are and for the important things.
Yeah.
And sometimes it takes like, especially because I get all of our financial receipts and all that kind of stuff that, I'm dealing with overseeing our operations. So like I'm seeing every single thing that comes through. And so sometimes it's like, well, it takes more time for me to like go file that thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like it would be way more efficient to just outsource that and have someone come file that for me.
Right. So I would agree. I spend an egregious amount of time in my inbox every day.
I know, and I'm trying to get you out of your inbox. I'm trying to get you to not be on your email every 7 seconds.
But I don't know. Maybe that's just a because if
it's
you
roles
can,
though too, right?
Well,
like
it's roles. Yeah.
Like
I mean,
you're a service-based role. You are
Right.
servicing agencies constantly. That's what you do. So you're on the phone or on your email all day.
right.
I am kind of like living up here thinking about like structuring partnerships and doing things like that, which is more, yes, it's in email some, but it's a lot more like the high level things are more in meetings on Zooms or on a whiteboard, figuring out how to structure a deal.
Right.
So for me to like go and manage that, it takes the brain capacity away from like creating win-win partnerships within our business.
Yeah.
And so once again, I'm not above it, and I will
totally.
probably end up doing it.
We just talked about that a couple days ago about we're not above anything.
Yeah.
But it's structuring your time in a way that does create the best return on the time spent, and that goes right back to stewardship. So for me, it's like if my inbox gets cluttered and I'm thinking about that, and I'm thinking about having to do that, that's brain capacity. That's wasted time thinking about that.
Right.
So if I just keep it organized, it helps me out a lot. If you can think about and focus on structuring win-win deals and partnerships with people, regardless of the state of the inbox, then yeah, it probably would be a waste of your time to actually spend hours and hours a day to organize and file and structure all the things that come through. Mm-hmm. It's kind of an interesting thing.
It's super interesting. And what I found for myself is I try as clearly as I can to set expectations and channels with people that I'm communicating with. And it's not, once again, it's not like my time is more valuable than your time kind of thing at all. But it's, I know what I have to spend my time focusing on because it's stewardship. I have to spend my time stewarding what I've been given.
Yeah.
And if I do that, and this is going to make you cringe majorly, but like occasionally I'll have something that if I have like a busy couple day stretch, that it'll take me longer than I would like to get back to if they've gone to the wrong channel.
Sure.
Whereas like you, regardless of what it is, you're going to drop what you're doing and you're going to respond to that thing. And, it might be it could be the smallest detail, right?
Sure.
And you're going to drop that thing. That's just the way that you're wired. And it's the way that I think I am wired, but it's almost like that, protection. I've had to like set that boundary within myself that like, hey, some of those things I'm going to get to as soon as I can. Mm-hmm. And I do my best.
Prioritization.
Yeah. And I do my best, even like if that's the case, to set an expectation and say, I'll get to this as soon as I can.
Right.
I'll respond to you by this time with an answer to this, or something even as simple as like a Zoom link creations. Hey, I can get this to you by tomorrow morning. And sometimes that's real. Like it's going to take me 12 hours to be able to have time to devote 4 minutes to making that Zoom link, because I've got like such high value things that I have to get done.
Yeah, and if the thing doesn't get forgotten or dropped and then it never gets done, that's fine.
Right.
That that doesn't need to be a priority.
Right.
The instance of the Zoom link, right? It's like if the Zoom link is sent and received before the time of the Zoom, then whether it's right now or in 10 hours is a moot point.
Right.
There's no real effective difference. So yeah, but if waiting that extra 10, 12, 14 hours allows more focus and cognitive emphasis on something else that is important and needs to be tended to, then it's certainly worth it.
Right.
So it's a net wash in the situation of the Zoom, but a net gain in the other thing.
Right. So I just want to thank everybody who's listening for coming into my process about managing my inbox. If you have any suggestions on if I should manage it personally or outsource it, send us an email. Connect with us on LinkedIn. Tell us. Josh Delgado, Caleb North. Connect with us. We want to connect with you.
Yeah, that's really pretty fascinating. And you mentioned prioritization of time last week or the week before. They're starting to run together on me. We talked about delegation.
That was last week as well. Yeah.
I talked a little bit about how I'm not that's not a great strength of mine. Because number one, I like doing things and I trust the way that I'm going to do them.
And it's most agents are like that too.
It's true. But another area that I don't think I'm the most skilled in naturally is prioritization, where it's really, really easy for me to operate in the place of response because I tend to be a quick thinker. So I tend to be able to come to decisions and conclusions quickly, which means that I don't need extra time to think about and process them. I can process the information and make a decision quick. So operating out of response, kind of reaction mode, I guess you could say, is a really easy place for me to live. The problem with that is that once you're in that, you don't often take the time to create prioritization. So there are things that I should be emphasizing time that are more proactive in nature. Excuse me, I bumped my mic. That are more proactive in nature that I'm not necessarily prioritizing because of living in the place of reaction. If I wasn't as good operate, and I don't mean that arrogantly at all. It works for me. I can do that. If I was not gifted in that, it would probably create a situation where a lot of stress if I had to operate in that place, but also create a situation where I would probably emphasize prioritization of things so that I could carve out the time necessary to process the decisions being made and simultaneously do the proactive thing. So I don't know. I just need to be better about prioritization as well.
Yeah.
So anyway, growth point.
But what's funny though is you talk about prioritization, and I feel like I'm really good with prioritization. I feel like I prioritize things really well, but because of that, I don't prioritize other things.
Right.
Because my philosophy is you can prioritize one thing at one time.
That's true.
And when people say like, well, you got to have like your list of priorities. Yeah, but that list has to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, so on. Right? So you can't have, okay, here's all my tier 1 priorities. Here's all my tier 2 priorities. I just don't think that that's real.
Right.
I think that that's a breeding ground for stress, anxiety, like all those kinds of things, because you've got 5 things in priority tier 1, but you can only focus on one thing at a time.
Right.
So for me, I've just had to be okay with the reality that I can do one thing at one time. I've got certain gives that I can. There are certain seasons in our lives and our businesses that dictate that, and I've just got to be okay with that. If I'm not okay with that, then my stress is going to go up. I'm going to feel anxious because I'm letting somebody down, or whatever else the feelings that might arise are, and I'm probably going to not feel like super fulfilled in what I'm doing.
Right.
Because I'm going to feel like I'm not actually living up to what I can. When in reality, it's like, man, this is my priority in what we do. This is my second priority in what we do. Here's my third priority in what we do. Okay, everything has to run through those 3 filters. And my wife's helping me with this too. Like, she's incredible. Maybe I'm gonna steal her from Chad to work with me directly.
She's going to be your EA.
Chad, if you're listening to this, get ready. Start searching. No, but in reality though, like she's helping me with that. See, like, hey, you can't focus on all things at all time. So like, what are the best gives that you have at any given time?
Yep.
And then focus on those things.
Right.
Let everything run through those filters and then decipher it from there. Right. Yeah. Cause I think for me, like that's been a big, especially like outside of work, like with family, and for agents, this is a big one, like prioritizing your family. You say like my family is number one, but like you never turn off work.
Right.
So like which one's actually number one? I mean, that's a real question. That's a big one for me, right?
Yep.
My family's number one, obviously outside of, the Lord, right?
Yeah.
But like that out of the equation here, like my family is number one on outside prioritization things. And then I've got, my friendships and stuff like that. And then I've got like all the business entities that I'm working on and in.
Yeah.
And so ultimately, like those things have to stay in the right order, or else burnout's going to happen.
Yep.
I'm going to feel
and resentment.
I'm going to feel wild. I'm going to feel crazy. I'm going to be upset. I'm going to be getting on to you for no reason.
There's probably a reason.
You're going to be grounded, chained to your desk, and I'm going to say I need to get away.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, it's a good thing to know what is your. I was talking with an agent about this concept. What's your best give? And we were talking specifically in the vein of marketing. And I would argue, guys, in a situation, if you can create an agency or a business where every person, you and everyone else, is doing the thing that is their best give, you're going to, and you continually support and you scale when you need to scale, right? But if people are doing the thing that is their best give, there's going to be a lot of enjoyment in that, because people don't feel like they're being underutilized.
Right.
Simultaneously, they don't feel like they're out of their scope of capabilities. And if you continually bring in new people when you need to bring in new people to support that, and support that individual, then you will, in large part, just by having the right person doing the right thing, prevent a ton of burnout.
Right.
I think what happens a lot of times for newer agents starting out is it's this weird, like, and I don't know, maybe you guys can resonate with this, but it's almost this weird thing of like you have time, but you don't know how to spend the time, and then you feel like you're getting bogged down in the details of things, and so it's like, do I hire an admin? My stance on agent prioritization, when we're talking about annuity producers, is revenue. Like, you've got to produce revenue. Yes, everything else is important, but without revenue, you're not going to have anything else going on. You're not going to have marketing dollars. You're not going to have the ability to hire and scale as you need to. Like, revenue is that has to be. If you feel right now like you're getting bogged down in the details of administrative tasks and you don't have the capital to go hire somebody to handle that, it's probably because there is a subconscious or some kind of misprioritization of time. Because whatever that administrative task is can't be more important than producing revenue.
Right.
And then you go from revenue to marketing, lead generation, actually working with your clients, all those types, anything that's going to be revenue producing. And then you get more into the day-to-day, kind of the weeds of administrative tasks. But if you have the revenue and you're able to prioritize that, then very quickly you might run into a situation where you feel a little bit bogged down, but you simultaneously should have the capacity to expand the team, hire somebody in to take off of your plates what are not your best give, which are frequently the administrative things.
Yeah, I was talking with a guy today just before we got on this call, and they at certain points, like they've done 40 to 50 million. I think he was saying right now they're doing about 40 to 50 million per month FIA business. And he was asking me about specifically outsourcing. So he was talking about with Jesse and with Chad, right? So these are our other two partners. For those of you who are new here, right, these guys are mega producers. They're doing, Jesse was saying he's probably going to pass 40 million this year when I was talking with him the other day, cumulative between annuity and assets. Chad is probably going to be right there as well. Around 40 is what he's anticipating hitting as well. So he thinks he's going to have another record year. So these two guys, like between the two of them, which to be seen, right? This is a challenge for these guys if they're listening, but to be seen, like they're going to bring in 80 million of production between these two guys. And so this individual who their firm is doing 40 to 50 million a month, he's asking me about like, what do these guys do for administration?
Yep.
Like, how do they outsource? When do they outsource? All these kind of things. Everybody cares about that. And he said that he had this philosophy, and kind of in their, big time days of their agency early on, he would always tell agents in these big seminars that they would do, he would say, do the things that are required of you and outsource all the rest. Yep. And it's exactly true. What's awesome is that now you've got things like, technology, right? Artificial intelligence. Doesn't matter to me where you are on that, how you feel about that. But the reality is, for a lot of people, it's saving them tens of thousands of dollars a year in employee costs. Yep. Now, that doesn't mean that they're not paying for employees, because if it was outsourcing and replacing all their employees, it'd be hundreds of thousands a year.
Right.
But it's saving them tens of thousands because they're able to now hire employees that are more specialized to propel their business forward faster. And so the basic administration type of roles are able to be outsourced for like $50 to $100 a month in some instances.
Yep.
And so if you're talking about like creating leverage in your business and actually like getting to that place, we'll figure out like, okay, are there things administratively that I can actually outsource through tech, through tools, through, third-party companies that maybe can handle these things for me, that in the long run might actually be cheaper than if I were to bring this in-house. I think there's a lot within that. Yeah. And agents so often get caught up in like, man, it just feels hard. It feels overwhelming. It feels like there's too much going on. It's because it is hard, right? It is hard to build a business, and it is overwhelming if you try to do everything. If you operate your business like this and you close you're tight-fisted and you closed hands with everything that you're doing, it's going to be really hard for you as an agent, as an agency owner, as an agency builder. You have to be open to doing things that are going to buy your time back. Yep. Man, I think that's a big one. I mean, I'm hitting like this whole concept of leverage. I'm spending like the next few months on my LinkedIn talking about the power of leverage in your business, how to create leverage in life through business. Right. Because there's so many different areas that you can do that, right? People think about money, they think about, technology, they think about alignment and partnerships. All of those things do that. So if you want to scale a business and you want to do it as efficiently as possible, you want to do it in a way that costs you as little as possible, well, you have to think about leverage. Yeah. And if you're not, then it's going to be way harder for you. Right. Like plain and simple, there's not a way around that.
Yeah. If you were to do a quick Google search on if you're in a survival situation, what are your greatest needs? The needs are always prioritized in the order of how long you can go without that thing. So the less time you can go without that thing, the higher the priority is. And I think the same should be, that should be the same method we use in business, I think. It's like, how long can you go without this thing? And whatever the shortest is, that becomes the priority. Now, you have to think about it in role specifically, though, right? Because your role is not so much the day-to-day of what's going on. So what's priority for me in my role is going to look different than it is for you in your role. Right. Because your role is tomorrow and next year and 5 years and 10 years down the road. My role is here and now. What is the greatest priority in this moment here today, and this week and this month, and it's a shorter time horizon. So I think agents need to think of it in the same light. How long can I go without this thing, or without this thing, or without this thing, and all the things that you feel like you have to do, all of the activities, the tasks, everything. Yeah, and identify what's needed the most and what's needed first, and then do that thing if you don't have somebody to outsource that to. And eventually, if you can get the revenue dollars coming in, and that's in a nice surplus of what's actually needed, then you'll have the opportunity to actually expand and grow and hire somebody else that now their priority list is different than yours.
Right.
So now multiple things are able to be prioritized. We talked about you can't prioritize multiple things at once. That's true if you're an individual. But if you're 2 individuals or 3 or 5 or 10, now all of a sudden everybody can have a different priority, and that many different things can be prioritized at once. But you're absolutely right. It is objectively, biologically impossible to apply 100% of mental focus on multiple things at once. I'm not arguing.
You could argue that all day with other people that are like, well, no, I just do what I do.
You can multitask.
And it's just not real. It's not true.
Yeah. Well, I think like you look at, it's weird. Mothers seem to have some odd capability of multitasking, but I can assure you that even though multiple things might be able to be done at the same time, and Chad is one of the people that swears by multitasking ability, even though, Chad, I'm speaking to you here because I love you, even though multiple things may be able to be done at the same time, multiple things cannot be given 100% of mental focus and mental effort. You will take your brain's capacity and you will divide that up amongst the things that you're trying to do at the same time. Now, is that better or worse than 100% focus? It probably depends on the things. But there are absolutely things that need to be given 100% mental focus. And to give anything short of that is to do them a disservice. And so anyways, that's my spiel on
when you think about that as well, what happens is it's not that you can't think about multiple things at the same time. If I'm playing with my kids, I can still be thinking about, oh man, that was awesome today that we did this cool podcast, and we said that funny joke, and Caleb was trying to read our description and he couldn't just say it from his heart.
I could have. I just thought it would be funny to read it.
But like I can do those things at the same time. But that is not what high-level multitasking is.
Right.
And when you talk about this ability to high-level multitask, you're talking about like taking a complex thing that requires a lot of mental focus. So you might have 5 tabs open on your computer for all the 5 high-level things that you're working on. I do that. I've got like 20 tabs open on my computer at any given time.
Yeah.
Right now, if you were to go over there and open up my laptop, you'd probably see 25 because I've been working on other stuff that has expanded that a little bit today. But I also am very real about the tab that I'm on is what I'm focusing on. So I can't be simultaneously thinking about structuring the ins and outs of a complex partnership agreement while I'm simultaneously thinking about brand positioning of a product or service that we're about to launch. I can have them both up at the same time, but those are 2 different things that my brain can only focus on one at a time.
Correct.
So to think that it can do multiple is just lying to yourself in some ways. But I'm always laced with hope. But it's easy to just realize that and be like, oh man, I'm feeling a lot more stressed because of the fact that like I'm trying to focus on this and this at the same time, and suddenly my brain feels like ping pong, and I'm going bang, 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 back and forth, and back and forth.
Oh yeah.
And suddenly, like I feel like I'm going crazy. Oh, let me just set that aside for this next hour or 2 and focus over here.
Yeah, you want
great. That thing's done. Now I can focus over here. Now this is priority.
And that's the way that it needs to be. And if you want proof that you can't apply 100% focus on multiple things at once, take your significant other, your spouse, on a date, and when they're sitting across from you at the table, pull out your phone and start sending a work email.
You shouldn't do that.
And try and convince them that your ability to multitask should create the warrant for you to be able to do that.
Right.
Good luck.
Good luck. Yeah.
Because we know, even though we want to try and advocate for the concept of our abilities, we know intrinsically that it can't actually happen, and that's why it creates frustration. If you and I were sitting here trying to record this podcast, and I mean, you mentioned last night you were up until 4 a.m. working on kind of rebranding and repositioning and
this podcast.
Exactly, for this podcast.
Yeah.
And then I were to sit here while you're talking about something that's important to you, and I'm working on sending an agent an email, after you were up until 4 a.m, how's that going to make you feel?
Well, I'm
Like,
gonna call you out on this podcast.
well, you
that.
should, but point being, the same effort is not being reciprocated.
Right.
The same attention is not being reciprocated, and that we know intrinsically. If I tried to argue, oh no, I'm here, man. I'm here with you. I'm listening.
Right.
I'm a part of this. It's like, no, we know intrinsically that can't actually be
Right.
the case.
Right.
So I think we beat that horse pretty much dead. But
Yeah. Well, what's funny about it though too is we talked last week as well about the prioritization of your relationships, your family, like all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was up with my wife until 12:30, and we're just hanging out, we're talking, and she's like, "Okay, I'm gonna go to bed." And I said, "Okay, awesome, love you," and I gave her a kiss. She goes to bed, and I'm like, "All right, well, I got to knock some stuff out," knowing that hey, I'm overextending myself. I'm gonna feel it tomorrow, right? I've got obligations this evening as well, things that we're doing. I'm going to feel it tomorrow.
yeah,
But what's funny is that I talked about this last week as well, as I was up till 2 a.m. last Thursday working on something else as well. This is not every day, people, so don't be concerned about me.
Josh is a night owl.
I do sleep like 6 to 7 hours a day, and I slept a little bit later today to be able to make up a little bit of that. But the reality is it's like I didn't sacrifice anything.
Yeah,
So one thing was a priority at one time, and then I just went to the next thing once my wife went to sleep.
Yeah.
So once she went to bed, I can either go to sleep and wake up and have to do it in the morning and feel more stressed out, or I could be like, you know what, I'm just going to push through and I'm going to get this knocked out because I can. I'm awake enough that I can do this. And next thing I know, I'm spending another 2.5, 3 hours, 3.5 hours working. And suddenly I'm like, oh crap, I got to go to bed. I've got a webinar at 9:30 in the morning, and it's
you
4
made
o'clock.
it.
And I made it, yeah. My camera was off.
Yeah, it was.
I was listening to it in the shower.
Yeah, that checks out.
The camera was not going to be on while I was in the shower.
That's funny.
But anyways, that sense of prioritization is such a big thing, and I think any agent that's listening to this podcast, especially. And this is a good way to like tie this into a lot of the agents that listen to this, especially agents that are in different lines of business.
Yeah.
Because you have to prioritize what you do for what you want to step into, and what you want to step into.
Right.
So you, as an agent in a different line of business, I'll say that again succinctly, you have to prioritize what you do and what you're primarily intending to accomplish for a prospect while still prepping for what you're going to be doing in the future.
Yeah.
And so a lot of you listening to this, like you are in Medicare, you're in life insurance, you do other lines other than just purely annuity, sales. So you're figuring out, how do I cross sell? How do I, open up this conversation, all that kind of stuff. But if you think about how do I service the client, and then with a couple of different questions, answers, whatever, segue it into this open door for an annuity sale. That's as simple as it is. So you're not prioritizing the annuity thinking, okay, if I sell this thing, I'm going to make a lot more. No, most of you listening to this do not do that. I would say that's borderline unethical, right?
Yeah.
To do a bait and switch, like you're gonna get in some trouble for doing that. But if you focus on what that priority is, okay, as soon as that's solved, now you can focus that next priority on how do you provide the fullest service possible to your clients, to your prospects.
Yeah. Yeah, I've noticed there is a pretty vast, widespread influence on the concept of offering multiple product lines. And I do think that there is a lot of advantage to that. But I think early on in a career that can be more detrimental than helpful. Mm-hmm. I think early on in a career, it is really, really, really impactful to find a line of business.
Specialize in something.
Yes, and I'll put it in metaphorical terms. I heard a pastor call fruit one time excess life. Fruit is just excess life. Trees that don't have an abundance of life don't produce fruit. Trees that do produce fruit, it's because they're so healthy and there's an abundance of nutrition, there's an abundance of life capabilities there. So the fruit is bore so that more trees can come about because of the fruit. Well, a lot of agents get into the industry thinking, I've got my tree, it hasn't really bore any fruit yet, so I'm going to go plant another tree and another tree and another tree in hopes that I will get more fruit net total from all these trees. But the health of each one is neglected on the altar of the next one. Let me say that again. The health of each one is neglected on the altar of the next one.
That's really good, Caleb.
And so my encouragement would be, if you're new to the industry at all, like whatever that is, Medicare, life, annuity, like if you're new and the capital is limited, focus on the one tree that you need to start producing fruit. And then once there is fruit, use that fruit to go and plant other trees and expand from that place, but expand from a place of excess, not this incorrect perception of necessity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I can even speak to our own journey in business.
Yeah.
So the Retirement Realized journey of business, we used to have many organizations that we operated, which is why we had a big staff, which led to the ballooning that I talked about earlier and all that stuff. We launched a marketing company off of our Retirement Realized. So we were servicing a lot of agents. We were creating a lot of branding and stuff like that. So we were like, okay, let's just create a company off of that. And then let's expand that company and let's go target other people as well. Well, what does that do? It separates our resources. It splits our leadership, right? Because now we've got leaders that are leading in both that can't be focused in one or the other. And in reality, what we realized was, yeah, we could go do that. I remember my first week being in that company. I went over to help kickstart that company, and at that time, like you were the primary person that was overseeing everything in Retirement Realized. And I remember my first week in there, I closed like 40 or 50,000 in sales.
Yeah.
Like week number 1, between just a couple of clients, because I believed in what we were doing. Well, then the problem was the rest of our team wasn't prepared to be able to do what we were actually able to do. Mm-hmm. It's not that I was overselling, but the perception of what they needed to do to actually fulfill that, it wasn't lined up. And so suddenly we're now in a field that we didn't need to be in. We're planting a type of tree that we didn't know enough about.
Yeah.
Right? We could do it. We could fulfill the stuff. We could build these high-end websites and these huge training platforms and do all these different things at a super high level.
Right.
Charge tons of money to do it, and it be well within and way less than what those people would monetize those websites for.
Right.
So like fully, ethical, there was nothing unethical happening in that.
Right.
But the only mistake that we made in that was we were trying to spread ourselves too wide in something that we didn't need to. Mm-hmm. And agents do the same thing, right? Eventually we ended up bringing all those people back and saying like, hey, if we're going to do this, we're going to focus it right here. And that's it.
Yeah.
Period. We're not going to be doing, big training platforms for life coaches when we're primarily dealing with annuity salespeople.
Yeah.
Because we're spreading our knowledge base too thin.
Right.
So let's focus on what we actually can, and let's, do really, really good work in that area. And so I think what's really interesting is as agents do that, suddenly they can get into annuities when really they don't even know how to sell life insurance. And not saying that you have to sell life insurance before you can sell annuities. There's some people that get into annuities for the first thing ever outside of a corporate sales job or something like that. So there's intangible skills that you can translate to any of these different lines. But if someone's getting licensed to sell life insurance and they're primarily focusing on mortgage protection, but they don't even know how to do that, and suddenly they're like, well, let me just add annuity just in case. Okay, well, you don't know how to do this thing, and you're trying to do this thing at the same time.
Yep.
So like now you don't know how to do two things, and your likelihood of success at either of those things is probably pretty close to zero.
Yep.
Like
Agreed.
I've got no study to support that, but I would say if you don't know how to do something and you're trying to do something else simultaneously that you don't know how to do, your likelihood of succeeding is probably close to zero.
I would agree. And there are ways to go about still providing those services to your clients. Right. And it's by having a referral network in place.
Exactly.
Like you want to be able to offer to your Medicare clients annuities, but you're brand new on the Medicare side and you're still trying to learn that. Find somebody that's an expert on the annuity side and be willing to make referrals and learn the process.
Right.
Get involved with them in the process.
Right.
If you're selling life insurance and it's the same deal, you want to start offering Medicare to your older clients as well, and just try and capitalize on some more residual opportunity, then great. But you're not an expert in Medicare.
Right.
So find somebody that is and be willing to refer that out. And maybe you can strike a deal where it's able to be monetized. Maybe not. But either way, you're gaining in the form of knowledge.
Right.
And long term, when you do decide to vertically integrate that, and you want to be life and Medicare and annuity and PNC or whatever, now you actually have the knowledge, the insights into all of it,
Right.
because you've taken each one, and each one has individually been built up into successful.
A case in point with that, we've got, obviously we never share names of any of our partners and stuff like that when it's things that aren't necessarily public campaigns, but we've got a partner in the Medicare industry that has multiple thousand agents, probably between 9,000 and 10,000 agents. Okay.
Yep.
We're helping them on the annuity side
Right.
with annuity distribution and with the ability to train their agents on how to sell annuities, how to cross-sell annuities with their existing book of business. They simultaneously are able to help us on the Medicare side. And what's awesome is that in our conversations, we're talking about, hey, do you guys, like they're asking me, hey, do you guys want to do the Medicare business? Do you want to be in the Medicare, side as well? And I said, to be really honest, not right now, but I can't say never.
Right.
So can we structure this to where we can refer all the Medicare business straight to y'all? If anything comes in Medicare-wise, we'll send it your way. But should we ever decide that we want to get into the Medicare space, those agents, are obviously coming to us as being our referrals and the agents that we've provided. And so we just built it in. So that's where that communication, that open dialogue really comes into play. Because if you're not actually talking about that and you're like, no, I'm not interested in Medicare. You take them all. And then suddenly you come 5 years later and you're like, hey, these are my agents. Well, suddenly you have conflict that you just could have had open dialogue about and totally avoided and made a win-win situation, because it's providing a win majorly in the short term for that entity. And in the long term, it's providing a win for both of you, because they're still able to capitalize on that. They're still able to help service to the extent that they need to. And simultaneously now we're able to capitalize on that when that time's right for us.
You're exactly right. It's the referral stuff is something that's really pretty neat, because you can structure things. And we talk about, building mutually beneficial partnerships, right? It's like that's a huge piece of it, is referring individuals and creating connection. I had something happen this week that I have never happened before. And I guess we'll round out this week with this story. But I was on the phone, or actually I got a LinkedIn message from an individual who is a marketer at an IMO that I won't name. And he said, hey, I've got a question to run by you. Love to catch some time, if whatever. I said, okay, let's talk tomorrow. So I called him in the morning. We talked. He said, hey, we have to hit specific targets with our production, and we can't exceed those. There's some specific...
You can't exceed them?
That's what he was saying. He was like, there are specific maximum thresholds that we have to stay under. And I don't know why that's the case. It's kind of a nuanced...
Interesting.
It's a nuanced setup. I said, okay, so what does that mean? He said, well, sometimes that means we have agents that reach out that we can't necessarily bring on board. And he said, if I were to try and create a referral over to you, what is y'all's minimum production? And I told him, I said, well, obviously your production is great. I said, but I look more at the individual and who is this person and what are they trying to accomplish and what do they like to work with than I do the production. It's like, if a $15 million producer is going to be a bulldog and steamroll my team and be rude and aggressive with my team, I'll turn away a $15 million producer for the sake of having a $1 million producer that's easy to work with and good to work with and wants to do right by their clients and wants to honor other human beings. I said, so for me, there's not necessarily a hard and fast minimum, although yes, we definitely value production. It doesn't do any good to have agents that aren't writing business. I said, but because of our capabilities to help agents scale their production and increase their production, I don't look at $1 million producer as just $1 million producer. I look at them as, what can we help them become? So I'm not necessarily in my role as limited in what I might be willing to accept as what other marketing organizations might be willing to accept. And he said, well, Caleb, that's great to know. He said, because I've listened to you and Chad. He's listened to our podcast.
Oh, cool.
So I've listened to you and Chad. I believe in what you guys are doing. I trust what you guys are working on, and the way that you guys work with agents, service agents, do case design in a client-centric manner, like all that type of stuff. And he said, I'd be thrilled to refer some agents over to you if they seem like they're going to be good quality individuals. To hear that from an IMO marketer that is, for all intents and purposes, in competition, that was pretty dang sweet. And I told him about you and I's podcast here, and how a few weeks ago or a month ago or whenever that was, everything's running together. We talked a little bit about competition. And I told him, I said, man, the vastness of the ocean of annuity production that takes place in this industry is so immense that, like, the concept of even a multi-billion-dollar agency being in competition with another multi-billion-dollar agency is a joke. Because let's just look at last year. Over $360 billion went into annuity products.
Right.
Your largest individual organizations in the industry are doing multi-billions.
Sure.
The concept of there even being competition between those entities is flabbergasting to me. It's like, if we all know what we're good at, who we work well with, what we're trying to accomplish, and we know what we offer, and we know who that's not going to be the best fit for, and we know who else is out there that, we might look at as competition, but recognize they might be able to better serve this type of individual, then we won't look at it with a scarcity mindset.
Right.
We'll look at it as an opportunity to help somebody achieve what they're trying to achieve and create a more unified industry in the process.
Right.
I said, the fact that you and I from the outside looking in would be in competition, and you're saying that, man, I told him, I said, that means so much to me. So much.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
That's a cool story.
It is. It's a really cool.
Tell them to send all those agents this way.
I was like, man, anybody that you think.
Don't name him. Let him stay under the radar. You just keep sending them over.
Anybody that you think would be a good fit in what we're doing, because he's listened to the podcast long enough to know what we do and what we're about and who we are.
Sure.
Anybody that you think would fit into that, I'll take the time to have a conversation and vet it out and see if it's going to be a good fit.
Yeah. That's
freaking cool, man.
That's awesome. That's super cool. So. What's funny is I was having a conversation as well this week, and this was on LinkedIn. I was in the comments a little bit, and I don't normally get like way in the comments on LinkedIn, but I'm starting to realize, like, with the way that we operate, I need to be more. So I devote a little bit of time every single day to be able to interact with agents and agency owners and, IMO stakeholders, all that kind of stuff on LinkedIn. And this individual was asking about producers that are 20 million plus, and if the model is dying for IMOs to retain them, because they all just leave. Once they hit that threshold, they just leave and they go chase comp. And I was trying to describe on this, 3 different post thread, because my response was too long, that's not necessarily the norm. Most of those agencies, they're just competing on comp. So they're just giving higher comp. So if somebody comes in for comp, they're going to leave for comp.
Right.
But if you're truly getting in the weeds with them and helping them, actually grow their business more, they're going to be loyal to you.
Yeah.
They're going to be loyal to you. They're going to stick with you. Now, not all of them will.
Sure.
Not all, but the majority will. I would say probably over 50%, 50 to 75% of them will stay. And those other 25%, like, let's just hope that you made the impact on those individuals, that they're going to go and carry the culture that you've instilled in them for the time that they were with you to whatever they do next. I'd say, like, our percentage is significantly higher than that, right? We've only had probably a handful ever that have left.
Yeah.
Especially any that are, any good, right? You got some of those smaller agents that don't really do a whole lot, that sometimes just, ghost you, but that's not what I'm talking about here. I'm talking about actual good producers.
Right.
When you're actually helping them, like when I think about the way that we're actually helping agents get their lead costs down, we're working on lead programs for the pay-per-lead option stuff, right? But simultaneously, we're helping agents build toward the long term.
Right.
So how do you actually establish your own leads and marketing systems in a way like Jesse has, where you're getting those leads costs down to like $3 to $5 a lead, and they've got $500,000, and they're getting straight on your calendar.
Yep.
Like that's a totally different thing. So to say that, and the question that they had was all these IMOs, FMOs, they just pass the full comp through to these agencies. And I'm like, well, no, that's not actually true.
Right.
The ones that are doing it right, they don't have to do that because they are establishing these partnerships and relationships as win-win partnerships.
Yeah.
The client's going to get the best thing. The agent and their agency is going to get the best thing. And the IMO, FMO is going to get the best thing. And when all three of those can be taken care of, and really the client first, and then between the IMO and the agency that they're supporting, second, they have truly a symbiotic relationship. They realize like my growth and efficiency is going to help this organization.
Yeah.
This organization is going to help me become more efficient, have higher ROI, buy back more of my time, have more freedom and flexibility and be less chained to my desk.
Yep.
All those kinds of things. And so when people can get that mindset to be like rooted in reality versus what historical, data has shown, because the reality is there are agents that are willing to do that.
Mm-hmm.
There are. Historically, the industry is like, let me just give as much as I can to buy your business.
Yes.
We don't operate like that.
We
don't. Never will. We're going to lose out on $20 million agents for that, right? In our quest to get the, $50, $20 million agents in the next 3 to 5 years, like we're going to miss out on some because we're not willing to give them all the override.
Yeah. I'm going to make a blanket statement here that might sound crazy, but I guarantee you it is true. Regardless of what you write, how much production you write each year, you can write twice as much. I don't care how much it is. So, well, Caleb, I'm writing $40 million a year. You can write 80. If you can write 40, you can write 80. If you can write 20, you can write 40. If you can write 10, you can write 20. You can write 5, you can write 10. You can write 1, you can write 2. I don't care what your annual production is. Whatever you're writing right now, you can write twice as much. The challenge is that it's more difficult for a marketing organization to help an agent double their production than it is to buy what they currently have. Mm-hmm. It is so much easier to recruit an agent on the basis of what they currently write. And if that's all you care about is getting their current 2, 3, 5, 10, 15, 20 million, whatever it is per year, then okay, you play your game. You do your thing. Mm-hmm. But for me, I'm just not interested in following the industry norm. Yeah. And that transcends everything that I do. That's not just like a bold statement about retirement. Realize I got into cattle with my brother because I want to have the best Beefmaster cattle in the United States of America. And come hell or high water, we're going to do that. Right. I mean, that's just we're going, I'm just not interested in mediocrity, and I'm not interested in just following what's always been done. How do you do something better than it's ever been done? And I think that taking the hard, difficult, high road path, so to speak, of helping agents actually increase their production does two things. Number one, at the same comp level, it pays them exuberantly more than them getting above street comp. And then number two, it actually... Well, I guess there's not a number two. Maybe that's just the end of it.
Maybe that's it.
Maybe because if you're, I was really confident in there being two things. And
you just said two for the sake of two.
Yeah, and then the second thing never came. But think about it. If you're writing $10 million a year, and you're, let's just say, $700,000, okay, and an IMO comes along and says, "Hey, we'll give you an extra 1.5, 2 points over street, whatever that might be." So now your $700,000 becomes $850,000, $900,000. That's great. What if that $10 million at street comp could turn into 20 because of a strategic partnership that was mutually beneficial to all parties involved?
While your time to produce it goes down.
So you have more time to make 1.4 million instead of staying at your 10 million, and the IMO that recruited you on the basis of that just happen to give you an extra couple $100,000 a year. I'm just
Exactly.
not interested in paying agents a 20% raise, I guess is what I'm saying. I'm interested in helping agents 2x and 3x their earnings,
Right.
regardless of the way the comp structure is set up.
And that is why you got 15, plus $1 million producers that are coming to us.
Maybe so. We're shaking things up, man.
Shaking things up. But you know what, though? When you do that, it's a lot more fun.
Yeah.
We're none of us here, none of our partners are those people that are just going to kind of fall in line. Like, we all feel strongly that we can make an impact in this industry, and that's what we're doing, and that's why we're seeing impact come back, right? We're seeing it come into us through production, through, our platform, through our software, all these different things. I've had some people in the past couple weeks in the software space that are significantly bigger players than us that want our help to improve on the annuity side of what they're doing.
Yeah.
Significantly bigger than us.
It's the thing that just came to mind is a small fish making big waves.
Yeah.
Or a young
And
fish,
it's by
I guess,
doing it
is a
the right
better
way.
to is a better way to say that. Because
Mm-hmm.
like I said, we've been doing this. You and I, or at least me. You've been in it a little bit longer than me. I started 5 years ago, Josh. As of this month.
Yeah, I'm going on 8.
I mean, we're not that
Yeah.
old.
Yeah.
I mean, we on the grand scheme of some of the agents that we work with that are seeking out our insights and ideas have been in the industry
Right.
longer than we've been alive.
Right. Well, case in
Just young
point,
fish making big
I
waves.
talked about these individuals that I was talking with that have this huge FMO they're currently in our training right now, and they're like, I don't give praise very often, but like this is one of the most well put together trainings that I've ever seen for annuity sales.
Yeah.
And they're a big organization.
Yeah.
So it's like you just do the thing the right way, and you're going to make waves because it's the right thing.
We talked about that was that episode 1? We talked about doing things the right way.
We've talked about it on a lot of the episodes because it's who we are, right? It's who we are.
But how it almost creates a competitive advantage, and it's so sad and crazy to me that you just do things the right way, but it's distinguishing in the marketplace. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And if this, guys, you got to hear our hearts in this. I mean, hopefully you know our hearts by now. We are not arrogant guys. We do not
very
think,
much the opposite.
Yeah. I mean, I was just talking about self-deprecation being my sweet spot at the beginning of this episode. It's like we're just honored and, quite frankly, proud of what's happened so far. But so much of it, I mean, we can only take credit for staying true to who we are and working hard. And everything else has been blessing, favor, a great team. I mean, an incredible team. Just wisdom, revelation. Yeah.
And the willingness to give.
Yeah.
All of our big partnerships have been because we've gone in giving the max that we were willing to. Like, we can go here. We're not going to try to nickel and dime you, right? We're going to come in giving the fullness of what we can to this thing. Is that good for you? And in every single case that we've had, it's been, oh my gosh, that's way more than I anticipated. It's like, great. Then this is win-win because we still feel comfortable here and you feel great here.
Yeah.
And if you can do that, right? If you can do that as you're forming your partnerships, if you can do that as you're forming your IMO, FMO affiliations, right? All that kind of stuff, you're going to have a super successful career.
It's true.
Like, there's no question about that. Man, I feel like we could keep going, but I know that we're at the hour already. I don't see the time or anything.
I got a hunch we've passed the
but
hour.
But I know that we're there. I know that we're there. Hey, well, I'll say this. Thank you for joining this Annuity Happy Hour today.
Yeah.
We hope that you feel, more full of hope leaving this today. That's our goal, right? We want you to come. We say happy hour. We're having a drink here. But also we want you to feel happy inside. We want you to leave this thing feeling uplifted, feeling encouraged, feeling excited to actually make a mark in this industry as well. And we know that if you actually put some of this stuff to practice, you put some of these principles in place in your business, we're seeing it have huge impact, and we know that it can have impact for you as well. So with that being said, cheers to another great week.